University. So this week I'm going to teach you about Ethereum scaling with optimistic rollups. So what is that? Why do you want to understand that? Well, there's a big problem with Ethereum right now. We're undergoing scaling pains. Basically, a lot of people want to use the Ethereum blockchain, but it's really slow, it's expensive, and it's driving a lot of people away from actually using it. Now, that being said, one of the reasons it is expensive is because there are a lot of people that want to use it. So people talk about Ethereum's gas fees being quote unquote too high. Well, part of that's because people actually want to use Ethereum. They're trading tokens, they're using DeFi, and they're making a lot of money. So they're actually turning a profit and they don't mind the gas fees. So that means a lot of people, quote unquote, whales who have a lot of money to trade are willing to do it. But for small users, they're frustrated because it's expensive and it prices them out from using Ethereum. And if we want, blockchain technology to be adopted on a mass scale, we need more people to be able to use it. We need the transactions to be cheaper and faster, and that's one of the things this aims to accomplish. So let me just talk briefly about what I mean. So Ethereum has, if you use Ethereum right now, Ethereum 1.0, you're basically using the base chain, which is layer 1, right? This supports about 15 transactions per second, give or take. All right. And right now, if you want to trade tokens on Uniswap, it might cost you like $100 to get in and out of a trade. It says for a couple transactions, including the ERC20 approval and all that kind of stuff. So that's just cost prohibitive for a lot of people. This is too slow. You couldn't use this for like to process like credit card transactions to be a global payments network. We know that. Ethereum's always been that way. That hasn't been the long-term vision of Ethereum. Ethereum 2.0 is going to fix a lot of these problems in layer 1, but in the meantime, we can create a new layer on top of this, which is layer 2, to process some of these transactions, basically make it cheaper, okay, and also faster, all right? So there are lots of different layer 2 scaling solutions that are being tried right now, all right? And I want to be very clear that this is a very early experimental time. And what I want to show you today and teach you about and show you the code for is still very young edge technology. It's very experimental, so some stuff might break. You know what I mean? We're on the forefront of innovation, and so that's part of the pains of being here is dealing with the headaches. But the reason I bring it up is there's lots of different layer 2 scaling solutions out there. The one that I'm very excited about is optimistic rollups. All right. So there are a few different implementations of this. Optimism is one of the folks that are working on this, and is one of the projects that I'm really excited about, and that's the one I want to talk to you about today. They have done a mainnet soft launch, okay? So this is still a really young product. There are different people who are using optimistic rollups as a scaling solution in their products right now. So Synthetics is an example. You can use layer 2 scaling right now on Synthetics if you meet certain requirements, all right? So I'll kind of talk about that in a second. But Optimism, what it does is it basically creates this new layer on top of Ethereum that gets its security from the base Ethereum blockchain and makes it a lot cheaper to transact, a lot faster, like I was saying. So in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of how applications implement layer 2 into their apps, and then also show you some code about how you can create a layer 2 based application, right? So again, some of this is really early, really edge technology. It's hard to do like a really integrated, it's hard to find a ton of examples out in the wild with people who have the solution in place. So for that reason, it's gonna be a little bit of an imperfect demo, but that's just the state of things. Like I can't just go to a bunch of different apps that have layer 2 in place and like show you how it works. I'll show you a couple here, and then I'll show you some ideas on how you can experiment with this in your own coding projects. But it's hard to give a full like end-to-end nice example of everything. So I'll point out where things might be incomplete and how you might fill in some of the gaps as we go along. So let's take a look at just how you might use layer 2 inside applications. So let's go back to Synthetics Minter application. Okay, so basically, Synthetics is a protocol that lets you do derivatives trading. Well, basically, that's their goal, is to have a protocol that powers other applications to do derivative trading. They have this idea of cents on their platform, okay? So you can deposit your SNX tokens, you can mint SUSD, buy different things with that, okay? So you can, if you meet certain criteria, you can go to Minter, l2.minter.synthetics.io, all right, and actually start using L2 today. So what you have to do is basically deposit your funds into Minter, okay, on layer 2. So I don't actually meet the criteria required to unlock this feature at the time for this video. And so unfortunately, I don't meet the criteria to be able to use it. I didn't start staking enough Synthetics early on to be eligible, so I'm not part of the snapshot. But what I really want to show you is just the user experience of what it's like to use layer 2. So I wish that I could personally do it on screen, but the next best thing I can do is show you this clip. Somebody actually doing it on YouTube. Like I said, I don't really love just like showing somebody else's YouTube video on this, but it's probably the best way for me to do it since I don't currently meet the eligibility requirements. So basically what they're going to do is claim process their claim. I just want to show you what the user experience looks like whenever somebody does it inside of MetaMask, okay? So let's just go to this big view and press play here. So that's what I want to show you, is basically whenever you're processing the transaction, all it has to do is sign it on L2, and it's as simple as that. Okay, it's really nice. You can let me go back to this screen here and see it. Yeah, awesome. So that's really what I want to highlight, is what the user experience looks like and how that's different if you're going to be using MetaMask. You sign a transaction, you see, oh, you're paying this much Ether, all that kind of stuff. It works differently with optimistic rollups, and that's the reason that I wanted to show you that user experience, just so you get an idea of what the end user will see. Whenever they use an optimistic app like that. Talk about how it works technically under the hood. All right, so going back to layer 1 here and then layer 2. So in this case, you have an ERC20 token, so a Synthetics token, and in order to use it, you have to migrate the tokens from layer 1 to layer 2. So there's this migration process that has to happen. But once it's on layer 2, everything gets a lot faster and cheaper. It's really nice. Okay, so that is an initial pain. There's going to be lots of trade-offs with all these different scaling solutions. That is one of the trade-offs, is you have to migrate your funds to layer 2. But how I could definitely see this playing out in the future is a bunch of apps that are integrated with one another where funds already exist on layer 2. So you sort of think about like migrating to layer 2, sort of like migrating to an exchange, but you could be migrating to, you're migrating to still a DeFi ecosystem that has a lot of different apps that can plug into one another. I'll take advantage of all the money Legos. So, I could see a lot of people in DeFi having sort of like their one-stop shop website, like maybe like, Zapperfi, for example. Let me just pull it up off my screen here. Let's see here. Like some sort of, dashboard for DeFi, okay? Or maybe like you exist on layer 2 right here. Like where you connect your wallet, you're on layer 2 and you have all your DeFi sort of recipes in one place. And that's like your one-stop shop for DeFi. I can see a lot of people adopting it that way over the long term. And that'd be kind of like using an exchange, but you have all these different protocols under the hood. That's one way I can see this going. There's lots of things that we're trying to figure out, but like I said, it sucks that you have to migrate manually from layer 1 to layer 2. But there's all kinds of potential benefits later on, like new funds getting issued on layer 2 natively. Like I said, some of these apps basically integrating layer 2 with one another, where you can have these one-stop shops. I'll talk to one another where a lot of activities are happening layer 2. Think about being like an early user of layer 1. Like you have to pay a cost to migrate to layer 2, and you don't really have much of a good alternative. I mean, think about if you have your funds on Ethereum right now, let's just say some quote-unquote Ethereum killer came out, like you have to migrate your funds off Ethereum anyway to get to that other competitor. And so for that reason, I think people are still going to gladly migrate their funds to layer 2 because the long-term benefit is much greater in terms of cheaper transactions and speed. Right. So that's how it works. You have to migrate off layer 1 to layer 2. You do that here inside one of these applications to move your tokens so you can take advantage of that. And then that's an idea of what the user experience looks like whenever you start making transactions on layer 2 much faster, much cheaper. All right, now let's look at some code. So I'll put a link to this down in the description below. This is actually from the Optimistic website with a tutorial on how you can create your own application for Optimism. All right, so this is going to be mostly just back-end code, but I'm going to give you an idea on how to actually integrate this into a front-end application as well. Like I said, this stuff is so early, it's really hard to make end-to-end examples of this stuff, but you have to use your imagination a little bit, but I'll point out like how it's going to work, okay? So you can just clone this repository like this. You have to git clone, right? Paste in that URL. So I've already done it. I'm going to skip that step. Once you've cloned it, you need to enter into that newly created directory like this. I'm going to say cd Optimism tutorial, okay? So this particular project uses Yarn, all right? So you install your packages with Yarn install. So we use npm by default, inside Dapp University, just because it's, npm is just kind of standard, but a lot of people use Yarn too. But Yarn's basically a package manager like npm. It's got a lot of similarities. Some people just prefer that, so you use Yarn install. It's like npm install, it installs your packages. So next, that basically just sets it up, okay? And you can open up the code here. If you look around, you'll notice some differences to the projects that we've done in the past. This uses Hardhat. So we've been doing Hardhat tutorials the past couple weeks inside the program because people have been asking about Hardhat. It's a really popular development framework, kind of up-and-coming popular development framework for Ethereum. It also uses Ethers.js, which is a little bit different from the Web3.js tutorials that I've done on the channel, and also inside this program, inside the Blockchain Bootcamp. Ethers is really popular too. We've been supporting that inside this program, so you guys can see multiple different ways of doing this. So anyways, it uses Yarn, uses Ethers.js, uses Hardhat. That's the framework here. It's not Truffle. There's smart contracts in here. Like I said, go check out those Hardhat videos if you want a better explanation of how it works. But let's see here. Yeah, we got a package.json file of the dependencies. Yeah, you can see Ethers, Hardhat, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So it's pretty simple code. It does not have optimistic features out of the box. We're going to actually create those. So it's just an ERC20 token. This is a Ethereum-based token following the ERC20 standard. I've done lots of tutorials on these. Basically, it's a money powered by a smart contract. If you want to see more videos on the ERC20 tutorials, you can go check those out. I won't explain everything here, but basically this is just a token, all right? So what we're going to do is basically deploy this token to a development blockchain and then convert it to L2. It's not as hard as you think, okay? So I'll show you. First, we'll just compile it. All right, so one thing with Yarn is you can specify your tasks here. So Yarn compile, you can see that specified here in the package.json file. So Yarn, let's see, compile. So it does this. It runs Hardhat compile. Okay, so Hardhat's here, right? So what this does is it just compiles the smart contracts, and then you can see here, ERC20 sol. Okay, here's our compiled contract. And then next we can run the tests. So you can just say Yarn test. All right, and you can see what Yarn test does. It does Yarn clean and Hardhat test. Okay, and you can see the test inside of here. So another thing to think about is this uses TypeScript. So if you're not familiar with TypeScript, it's just sort of like JavaScript on steroids. It's statically typed. Some people just prefer it over JavaScript for lots of reasons. Some of this code might look foreign to you if you're just used to vanilla JavaScript. Don't worry if you don't understand everything. You should be able to still just read through it and kind of have a basic understanding of what's going on. So this is just a test, right? Describe the ERC20 token. This uses Mocha and Chai like the other tests we do inside this program, so it works very similarly, right? So before each, basically we're using Ethers.js like we did in the tutorials last week, so we get the contract factory for ERC20. All right, we describe the basics. We just say like it has a name, total supply, all that kind of stuff. The transfers work properly. The transfer from works properly. All right, just basic ERC20 test, okay? You see they all pass here, okay? So now, what are the steps required in order to migrate the smart contracts to optimistic Ethereum? Because when you want to do this, you have to move the contracts from layer 1 to layer 2. All right, so let's actually look, before we answer that question, let's look at this diagram right here, okay? So because whenever the smart contracts run on layer 2, they're running on the OVM. So that's what optimistic Ethereum is. So we talk about the EVM, which is the Ethereum virtual machine, which is what everything runs on layer 1 right now, Ethereum 1.0, okay? So the optimistic Ethereum protocol consists of 3 key components. The Ethereum mainnet, all right, so the root of security for optimistic Ethereum. The optimistic rollup, the core scalability solution powering optimistic Ethereum. And then the optimistic virtual machine, the EVM compliant execution environment enabling optimistic Ethereum to function just like L1 Ethereum. So that's what I'm talking about. You have to compile your smart contracts in a way so they can run the OVM. So basically everything that runs on the EVM right now, that's what Solidity can compile down to run on the EVM, can run on the OVM, all right? And then the optimistic rollup is the scalability for this, okay? And the Ethereum mainnet is what gives this all security, okay? So basically what happens is, here's the technical steps. So user sends smart contracts transactions off chain to an aggregator. Then the aggregator, Oracle/validator, everyone, basically, the reason it's called the optimistic rollup is because transactions are rolled up into batches and they're all sent to the blockchain in one transaction, okay? So basically it computes the root for each transaction, computes the root of roots, and then sends all the transactions into one. So in order to do this, basically, you have to compile your smart contracts, put them on the OVM so that they run on layer 2, and everything that's compatible with Ethereum layer 1 right now can be put on layer 2. So what are the steps required to convert your existing smart contracts to doing that? So I'll show you. You need to add this ETH Optimism plugin. All right, I think we have to actually downgrade it. Look at my notes here. So let's do this. So go Yarn add ETH Optimism plugins. And I think, yeah, we need to actually downgrade the version. Let's see if it installed the right one. Okay, so let's go here. So let's downgrade it. Let's lock the version to 0.0.7. All right. So we'll do Yarn install. So it should change the version for us. All right. So now what we want to do is basically take the now that we have this plugin, it's going to allow us to start using a optimism in our test. So we'll show you how it works, okay? Let's go to the ERC20 test, and then let's basically actually go in here, hard hat config. So what we're going to do is import this. Let's do it here. And let's compile our contracts. So truffle, yarn, compile. All right, so now if you go inside your contracts, you can look at artifacts, and you'll see this. You'll see erc20.ovm.json. So this is your smart contract compiled down for the optimistic virtual machine. So this is the layer 2 version compiled down for your app, okay? So if you're going to build a client-side application, you need this OVM compiled version to interact with. So like if you're creating an Ether.js version, or you need to have the ABI or interact smart contract, or the, the Web3.js version, something like that, then you need to have this optimistic version, okay? So that's what it looks like whenever we test it, all right? So now we need to import another item. So go back to your hard hat config, and then do this. Okay. So that basically what's going to allow us to do is integrate Ethers.js with layer 2. All right. So let's now go and take this test. We're going to duplicate it. I'm going to call it optimistic. So optimistic ERC20 specs.js. Okay. So basically, we're going to find this and import this. So layer 2 ethers. So you need a brand new version of Ethers.js in order to interact with layer 2. All right. So if you're going to create a client-side application, this is the same thing. Basically, you want to put layer 2 ethers inside of ethers. Okay. And then basically, you can change your test to optimistic. All right. So let's watch this happen in real time here. All right, now it's in the optimistic ERC20. All right, boom, there we go. And you'll notice the optimistic versions take a little bit longer. That's probably just got to do with the fact that it's using, it's kind of ironic basically that the optimistic version takes longer in the test, but that's probably just got to do with the libraries now they're implemented in this environment. It's hard to say for sure, but it's working, okay? So that gives you an idea of what you need to do in order to migrate your smart contracts over to the OVM. Basically, you need to compile it. And then if you have any kind of client that talks to the blockchain, or I say client, I don't mean like any script, any website, any JavaScript environment that talks to the blockchain, you need to use L2 ethers, okay? Because that's going to basically allow you to, talk to, it doesn't allow you to talk to layer 2, and Hard Hat has a lot of that good functionality out of the box. You get the L2 ethers, and then you do it that way. So that's an overview of what's like in the test. If you're going to create a client application, you need to use L2 ethers as well. I'll leave you with one last resource here. So this tutorial will show you how to take an entire existing project and port it over to Optimism, okay? So this is a much deeper, longer, guide, and if you really want to get deep into how this works, then I highly recommend, working through this, okay? So I'm not, there could be some gotchas in here, there could be some hangups, because again, this is so early, right? This is so insanely early. That this stuff changes, really, really fast. But this is definitely worth checking out if you're serious about this, you're trying to scale adapt, and you want to, try to migrate an existing production application from layer 2. Definitely check this out. I'll leave this note down in the description below. You can use this note to grab the code and all that kind of stuff. All right. So I hope you like this video. That's all I got for today. Until next time, thanks for watching Blockchain Mastery University.